Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 2 of the anime series, Noragami. And this was a highly entertaining episode, as the majority of it was spent observing Hiyori as she's dealing with her newfound sort of spirituality, if you will. Being basically removed from her body. We see her in a sort of, steam bath kind of situation where she's poking at her body, her unconscious, real physical self, and she keeps finding herself just passed out, not even realizing this transformation occurs. Her friends are carrying her sort of unconscious body, from the school, from class to class, or what have you, and it's just becoming a veritable predicament for her, but not one that is, not hilariously funny in the way it keeps transpiring. Now, she's basically confronting Yato, the sort of wannabe god, once again, about their deal. She says it's been 2 weeks, and she's been kind of on his butt to do something, find some means of helping her, and of course we know that he's been without his regalia, his weapon, his sort of second, or partner, if you will, who quit on him in the first episode because he was very smelly and sweaty and always getting his sweat all over her and everything like that when she would be the weapon of sorts. And it's just very comical, their relationship thus far, where, he does seem to want to help her, but it's really on the back burner because he's got so many other things he's trying to do. We see him basically removing mold from bathrooms and stuff. He's going and doing any little menial task, saving, or rather finding the cat in the previous episode and everything like that. So he's doing all these menial tasks that really aren't very godlike, and he's got these grand aspirations on 5 yen per job, intake value, to build himself his own place of worship in the center of Japan and all this stuff. Gee, high aspirations much, And it's just absolutely hilarious and hysterical that the next step that Hiyori basically takes is to try to find a regalia for him. Of course, she's falling back on her sort of martial arts nerdy side, looking up to one of her favorite fighters, and words of his that have boosted her confidence in the past about taking the reins, taking control of your own life, and not expecting other people to do it for you. And she really tries to do this. I mean, she's running into monster and phantom after monster and phantom, and it's just absolutely hilarious. They range from very small. I like the dopey face one she saw in the sort of locker room at her school, sitting under the little stool when another girl sits on top of it and is just kind of staring off into the distance, and she notices it, and all of these other creatures. And then finally, she calls Yato and says, I have one. I found you a regalia, and it turns out to be this giant hulking, sort of neon green spider and everything like that promptly attacks them and chases them across rooftops. It's just absolutely hysterically funny. I loved the entirety of it. And then, of course, in the midst of this, as they're sort of arguing and we're finding out little details like that tail that we suspected was a tail, or at least as a viewer I did, and of course Hiyori also did as well, it's actually her lifeline to her physical form. And when she's not in her physical form, she has to worry on sort of dual sides. Her physical body is at risk of being, tampered with or harmed, but then on the same token, as a spirit, all of these phantoms could siphon her energy and try to basically possess her and control her and manipulate her and stuff like that if she leaves herself open. But it's interesting that she, of course, tries to take up the reins again, tries to get involved in this battle, this confrontation with this giant phantom, and Yato stops her. He's like, you really got to think better of yourself and your surroundings and what's going on. You can't just run into battle and think you're going to, win the day and all this stuff. And then he notes off to the side there's this sort of little snowflake with a face, a little cute smiley face kind of thing. Reminded me very much of the Laughing Man icon from Ghost in the Shell. But in any case, he realizes this is something I can use as a regalia. So he summons it. He, puts his name on it, his brand, so to speak. He names it Yuki. And we see a flash of sort of the consciousness of this character before we actually see the character himself in a physical form, or a ghostly physical form in any case. But it's very interesting because the impression I got from those little brief images was that maybe he would be childlike and sort of a go-getter, sort of fun-loving character. And after this sort of very brief but no less kind of kick-ass battle where, of course, Yato, using his new regalia, this absolutely awesome katana blade, takes out this giant spider, once he transforms the regalia back into a sort of humanoid form, this kid's kind of snarky, he's kind of like, can we get in and out of the cold? What the hell are we doing here, And he's like, I'm not taking your jacket, you smell of sweat, you stink, everything like that. Pretty much like his last regalia treated him, and ended up quitting as a result of it. And Hyoi's just like, hey, why don't you take my scarf? And so we're seeing a trio forming by the end of this episode that I thought was really fun and enjoyable and exciting in the way that they, had their little adventure in this episode. So I can't wait to see where we're going to go from here, what it is that Yato's got planned, or if he's going to put a plan into motion to help Hyori figure out sort of how to survive with this, being disembodied on and off at random, if he's going to be able to return her soul, in a sense, or her essence to her body on any lengthy period of time in the near future, and, how these relationships are going to basically draw out as more phantoms crop up. Are they going to, become very wealthy? Is he going to reach his goal? And all of these things, I can't wait to find out. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen either of the first two episodes of Noragami, what you thought of it, and how they recommend checking it out, if it sounds appealing to you. Otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you later. Peace.